Today's show is brought to you by Northern Arizona Council of Governments and the Arizona Workforce Connection.
He's been banned in Boston and Prescott. No, he really hasn't. Joe King is a cartoonist. He's in the Best Editorial Cartoons of the Year 2011, and oddly enough, this book is sponsored by a past president of the group that first banned your work.
Right.
So that's an interesting cyclic 180 degrees.
We call it sweet justice in my house.
Joe, what is it that they want to ban? I mean, you know, the freedom of speech and is certainly deepest in our minds in today's world. What is it they banned?
Lou, that's the bitter part of this pill to swallow. The AAEC, the Association of American Editorial Cartoonists, which I've been a proud member of for many years. I actually started my career in editorial journalism after the terror attacks of 2001. They like to pride themselves as being the last bastion of free speech in the editorial pages of North America and beyond.
And in cartoon, being a cartoonist, you can say many things that you cannot say in other types of publications.
It's almost as good as being a celebrity.
That's very true.
As far as being rewarded for bad
because you know the words can come out through the dummy that is sitting on your leg.
And I'm the dummy.
Yeah, I used to think, you know, I'd turn right to the sports page. That's the first place I'd go in the newspaper. But I think in today's world, most people go right to the cartoons. Do you believe that's a true statement?
It is, and I'm one of the generation that always decided how to base my newspaper subscription on the quality of their cartoon section. But unfortunately, even as the cartoon section has dwindled and shrunk, the opinion pages in most places now across the country have completely done away with the editorial cartoon.
Now, the Courier has not done that. They have an editorial cartoon every day in their paper, and I applaud them for it, and they have some very good ones at times. But now let's jump back to your cartoons, because you have a gentler side.
I always like to say that I'm proud to worship at the drawing board of Charles Schulz. He said that at the end of the day, you owed your editor a funny picture. And I've always tried to, you know, inject a little bit of humor into some of the tragic events that we have to cover on a day-by-day dateline.
Aren't you a comedian on paper? Because you're saying the same thing. Comedians, when they're on stage, that's what they're doing.
I appreciate that. That's true. And you know, the darker side of that is, if you know any professional comedians off stage, they can be very cynical and jaded, and
many times very cutting edge, and can sometimes be vicious and a mean streak to them.
Right. And well, the truth is, after doing this for about 5 or 6 years, everything was coming out the same. It was the same thing every year. We had the same politicians, the same wars, the same disasters, the same lies and cover-ups. And I needed to make a change for myself. I retired from political journalism, and I started a new type of comic strip, a slice of life, a quality of life. Instead of commenting on all the horrible things, I started commenting on all the positive things that I saw around me. And that's when it really hit the fan.
Now, the latest publication the publication we're speaking about right now is Best Editorial Cartoons of the Year. Now, this is the 2011 edition. You and I talked about that. Why isn't that the 2010 edition? You explained that to me.
I think it's a marketing, I just think it's a marketing position, so that these things typically go into distribution, like now. This is right off the presses, and as the new year approaches, if it was dated 2010, you know, in a few weeks, somebody might think that it's somehow out of date. And it's been a running problem with myself. I always date mine for the actual year. So, you know, my 2010 book was going to look like it's a year late.
Gotcha. Okay, so I understand that. Now, you have a marker on that. So that tells me something.
This is the cartoon that previously was banned by the current board of my editorial association.
Let me get a... What's going to catch that? Okay.
Is that
good?
Is this readable?
Okay, read it to, let's keep it there so they can, the curse of the common era. Choosing the proper brain for the monster required the elimination of undesirable traits, especially logic and reasoning, but above all, gratitude to our Creator. I like that. And then you go on to say what each brain says about that.
Well, this was I've got a color version, I think, here. Here we go. Is this better? This was the third installment of a 5-part series.
Okay.
A parody on the scary movies. So I call it Scary.
The Frankenstein.
Yeah, a scary story. And this is my mad scientist, and he's selecting a brain for his monster.
Okay.
And there's 3 sized brains.
God said it. I believe it. That settles it. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. There is no God. This one is perfect.
The smallest one.
Yeah.
So we were chatting during the break about sometimes, a little bit of cruelty is good for comedy. So we actually submitted a half a dozen cartoons to this year's edition, and they didn't tell us which one they picked.
Right.
And I guess I wasn't surprised.
Now, because it has the edge.
Yes.
That one has an edge to it. Now, in the book, is any cartoonist represented more than with one cartoon?
Yes. Some people are represented several times, some just once. I'm proud to, just to be in it twice. 2005 was the last year I entered. It was the last year I was doing any strictly political work. Since then, I had sought to produce, this local commentary, and this was so satisfying because every 6 months I would take the newspaper collections and I'd put them into a book for some type of charitable cause. This was to raise money for the disabled veterans. This was to raise money for our new firehouse. I lived in a very small town, and I really learned the value of community. Even people you didn't necessarily care for were important. Everybody was important.
Do you count yourself as a serious person that writes comedy? How does your brain function? Where do you put yourself?
I have an entire group of government scientists trying to decide that. I admit to being conflicted, very conflicted.
Oh, yes. So we're talking about, of course, Joe King, cartoonist. It is highlighted in the Best Editorial Cartoons of the year 2011. What is the Battlestar Galactica? What was that?
Battlestrip. Battlestrip Galactica is a little pun I've come up with. I love puns and I love parodies. St. Paul said, I want to be everything to every man so that some could be saved. I've taken that personally as I can be every comic to every man. So I've put together a series of parody comic strips of all my favorite strips from all time. We've put them together in a new series called AD for short, but Anno Domini, Latin for the year of our Lord. And we just provide historical and scientific reasons for people to have faith in biblical creation. One of the things that has the current tempest in the teapot, in the inkwell, is there have been literally hundreds of violent attacks against traditional faith from my other members in the AAEC. I was the lone voice speaking out just in defense of it, and they silenced me. So I'm very proud to be working with Russ Miller, Creation Ministries out of Flagstaff, Arizona.
Excellent.
And this is our new calendar. It's already picked up for nationwide distribution.
And where's it available?
Yes.
It's on Amazon.com. It's at cafepress.com, and it's at creationministries.org.
I love the cover.
Now, how did they silence you?
The news servers of the AAEC are viewed on a daily basis by the most important publishing magnates in North America and beyond. I had an archive of work that was deleted and my membership revoked.
Joe, thank you so much for being
Joe,
here.
thank you.
And you haven't made home in Prescott too long. You haven't been a resident too long.
I want to thank you again. I appreciated the gratitude you shared opening up, and I'm so grateful to come back. It's our year anniversary, and you were kind enough to welcome me here my very first day in town.
Yes, I remember that show.
So
thank you so much, Joe.
We appreciate your work and your artistry.
Thank you.
You're quite talented. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Dr. Susan Van Dyke, Sub-Zero, Tonya, freezing the fat when we come back.
That's my kind of treatment.
Perfect treatment for us all, so stay tuned for that. But we want to remind you that right after AM Arizona comes True Hollywood Stories, and today you're not going to want to miss this one, Tonya. Rosie O'Donnell featured today. We'll be right back.